I never thought about my grandfather as a young man until he passed away. When I saw this picture at his wake, it struck me. He looked so full of life, so carefree and happy. He looked ready for the unknown, ready for anything, really. His youthful self was different from the ailing man I had become so accustomed to seeing in his last years. I had never even believed he was in the U.S. Army, but here finally was the evidence, smiling at me, beckoning me to find out more. Who was this young man? Why had he joined a war with a country that he could barely call his? What made him choose America? My grandfather was born Kai Shang Chin on February 3, 1917. He grew up in southern China, in a small village near Taishan, with one brother and one sister, from a well-off landowning family. When barely 17, he journeyed to the United States alone. He was to try his luck in New York City. He followed in the footsteps of friends and family before him, and like those before him, his sole objective was to earn money. May 22, 1934. With a $15 boat ticket and no English, he came. He purchased a fake name and entered America as a United States citizen. To the United States government, he was Hong Fook Moy, a 16-year-old Chinese student of American citizenship. Of course, this wasn't his real identity. With the Chinese Exclusion Act strongly enforced, Chinese immigrants found it virtually impossible to enter America legally, so they developed a system. Chinese Americans would travel abroad. Upon return to the U.S., they would claim to have had a son born in China. Based on this, the U.S. would grant this new son citizenship. Chinese men wishing to enter America could, for a large sum, purchase the name and official papers of this fabricated person. The Chinese called the fake names paper names, Zhiming, and the men paper sons. Documentation provided Chinese immigrants with American citizenship and new paper families. My grandfather settled near New York City, Chinatown. Most in the community had come to earn money for loved ones, then planned to return home in a few years. Like many in the Chinese community, my grandfather worked in the laundry business. At 20, he returned to China to fulfill an arranged marriage to my grandmother, Luo Tonghai. My grandmother had been raised in Canada. She took her first trip away from home to go to China, to live with her new husband and his family. That was the custom in those days. 13 months later, my grandfather returned to New York alone for one last trip. It was supposed to last for 2 years. California Chinatowns, New York Chinatown, situated on opposite sides of the country, yet the communities hardly differed. The population consisted of mostly men. Women stayed in China to tend to parents and family left behind. For many in New York, America was not home, at least not yet. To them, America only symbolized the opportunity to make money. On the West Coast, there was a larger population of American-born Chinese. These Chinese were bona fide American citizens. They had called America home for generations. Chinatowns form the core of the Chinese community in America. Many Chinese chose to live in or around Chinatown. For them, it was a safe place, a safe community. It was as close to home as they could get. Yet it was also a sign of the segregation and discrimination present in America at that time. Chinese people did not feel accepted in the wider community.
Chinatowns were ghettos. Chinese were there because racial violence in the late 19th century had forced them out of these small towns where they lived across the United States, and racial violence similar to that experienced by African Americans pushed Chinese into living in Chinatowns. Now, these Chinatowns were a unique American phenomenon in that they were almost racially exclusive. On the one hand, it's home, it's community, there's a sense of national pride. At the same time, of course, people were there because they were forced to be there.
Most Chinese struggled with life in America. Discrimination abounded. When outside of Chinatown, Chinese immigrants and Chinese citizens alike found it difficult to live comfortably. It was hard for the growing population of Chinese, who called America home, to create a new, combined identity of both Chinese and American.
Many of the people who were coming into the Chinatowns were coming into the neighborhood to sort of ogle the strange people whom they did not regard as Americans. Well, many of them were born in America. There are reports of tour buses that would be organized sort of like movie theaters, in which people would sit stadium style, one row after another, and would ride through the Chinatowns and look at people. Chinese Americans in general were not considered to be like other Americans. They did feel a lot like they were outsiders.
In America, the Chinese found it difficult to secure decent jobs. Most of the jobs available to Chinese people paid little and were considered unskilled. Work for a Chinese-owned business or start your own. These were their options. Laundries and restaurants proved the most popular and most feasible. By no means easy jobs, they demanded long hours and weekend work. Some certainly found the work degrading.
Gung Gung said that his grandfather hated it so much because it was so hard for him that supposedly he went up to the Brooklyn Bridge or to one of the bridges, like pissed off the bridge and said, I will never come back to this country and I won't let people, my sons and my generations come. But they ended up coming because this is where they would make money.
The low quality of life did not go unnoticed. When Yi Duo, a Chinese poet, came to study art and literature in America in the 1920s, the discrimination in America Chinatown shocked and disgusted him. His experiences inspired him to write the poem Laundry Song. 你说洗衣的买卖太下贱，肯下贱的只有唐人不成。我也说，这有什么大出息？流一身血汗洗别人的汗，你们肯干，你们肯干。
Year in, year out, a drop of homesick tears. Midnight in the depth of night, a laundry lamp. Menial or not, you need not bother. Just see what is not clean, what is not smooth. And ask the Chinaman. Ask the Chinaman.